Hey, badass business owners, welcome back to the show where we help you grow your business, but more importantly, grow those profits. And today I want to talk about those pesky profit and loss statements. I've been looking at profit and loss statements now for 30 to 35 years. And I remember when I was like 20, 21, something like that, I was with Home Depot, and when you run a department there, you get a P&L. Now, it's a truncated version of it. It's mainly focused on the departments and how you're doing within that business, but it's still a P&L in itself. And I remember getting it, and I remember looking at it going, what is all of this on here? What are these numbers, and what do these numbers mean? And I was so confused. And I'm a numbers lover. I love numbers, but I'm looking at this thing and I was so confused as to what any of it meant, because they were all full of like GM percent, GM dollar, and then all these different things, and inventory, INV, and all these other things. I didn't know what any of those things meant, never mind what the numbers meant, because I've preached for a long time that a P&L can be very confusing for people when they look at it, when they're looking at their business numbers in general or any report with it, because it just looks like a bunch of gobbledygook sitting on a piece of paper. And the reality is it's telling a story. It's telling the story of your business. And at the time, I did not correlate all those numbers with it telling a story. It wasn't until I started having mentors that started teaching me what each of those lines meant and what each of those numbers meant, and then having to understand why it was that number. So one is, what is it saying to me? But then it became about, what does it mean? How does that impact my business? And I was being compared to other departments, but we weren't the same. Some departments were required some numbers, and my business was required something different. And it just really made it confusing, because I'm thinking, why would this department not be the same as this department? It wasn't until later that I understood, just like the mix in your store or in your business, when you sell different things, they're going to have a different profit margin attached to them. So that was all the kinds of stuff that I needed to learn. Well, as I grew from department supervisor to assistant manager into store manager, then I started to see the store's P&L. And that's where I got to see even more stuff, because now I'm looking at all the expenses the business is having, and I'm looking at all of the payroll and all these other numbers, and having to make them make sense to me. Looking at those top line numbers of the business and then saying, oh, it's awesome, we did all these millions of dollars in sales, but what do you mean that's all the money that we made? Or where did the money go? Now I'm looking at it once again, just full of different numbers, but what do they mean, and how do they impact the store, and how do I make it work? And then how does it correlate in when I'm going to a meeting with the district manager, and how my store is slightly different than other stores, and why are other stores able to have a different profit than what mine is? For example, when you're looking at the rent and the cost of the building, they're going to be different. Some stores will have more inventory than other stores will have. So there's all these different things going on when it comes to that. And then when I became a district manager and eventually regional and all those other fun, fancy titles, I get to see how not only how a department rolls into a store, but then how a store runs into a district, and then how it runs into the company, and so forth and so on. And you can say that over the 22 years that I was with Home Depot, one of the things I got really good at were these profit and loss statements, were these budgets that the stores had, and understanding how the two of them work together. Then I decided I wanted to leave, and I had my ice cream shop. And when I got my ice cream shop, I inherited the P&L from the store person who owned it before, because you had two different things going on. I had the Baskin-Robbins version of the P&L, and then I had what the previous owner had put together himself, because I inherited his numbers. And I'm a numbers person, as you know, and I started diving in because I found secret tabs he thought he had deleted on this Excel spreadsheet that he gave me, and it showed me all kinds of great information I was able to use, not just for my store, but also for his other one. And I was able to go, oh, I can compare this just like I used to do back in the day between different Home Depot stores. Now I'm doing it between different Baskin-Robbins stores. And then I started playing with it, tweaking it, because I didn't like the way his was doing. And I'm into QuickBooks Desktop at that time, which is really confusing. And every morning I sat down, and every morning I inputted the numbers from the day prior, because I wanted to know in real time what was going on in my business, and how was that impacting my profit and loss, and what was going on. And I really became a nerd when it came to the P&L for this ice cream shop. And it was at that time that I started talking to a lot of other business owners and talking about their P&L and helping them understand it with what was going on. And that's really where I got my mission, my passion to help as many small business owners as I can, because they were lost. They had no idea what was going on. They didn't understand what this report even was, how to look at it, how to make a difference. And that's when I started doing this podcast. And then that's when I started rolling into everything afterwards. And I started coaching, looking at even more P&Ls and different businesses and different business types. Because at the end of the day, the thing I realized is whether it was a big box retailer or a small business, we all watched the same numbers. Now, there might be a whole nother set of numbers that a really big business is going to do. They're going to get a lot more dialed down to a lot more things. Like, for example, the way I needed to understand the inventory and the impact and all that doesn't impact a lot of you guys. But you start realizing how every number kind of works together. And I remember that when I started realizing that you can impact those numbers if you use the information that it's giving you. And if I go back to my Baskin-Robbins days, there were times I would dive in and I ran that inventory so lean and mean because money was an issue and I had to make sure I did that. And I was able to dive in and understand that if I turned it so often, I could keep my profits up because I wasn't tying it up with a bunch of inventory. I also learned, a lesson I used in Baskin, I actually learned back in my Home Depot days when I was running the plumbing department. We had so much inventory. It was ridiculous. I mean, we're talking like $1 million plus in inventory, and every store in my area had it. I was in San Diego and all of us had tons of it. And then I got this wild hair to say, hey, I'll bet you if we all sat down with different vendors and we started moving some of the inventory around, that some of us who were selling some things better than others could take some of the slower sellers, we can move it to the other location, and then we could start balancing out that inventory because plumbing was getting killed. Us as a group, we had such an inventory problem and it was really hurting not only our turns, but our profitability. And we started moving thousands and thousands of dollars around in the district and getting that inventory down across the board. And people started noticing, going, what is going on in these plumbing departments in San Diego? All of their numbers are coming down. And it was just because we took the numbers, we figured out how to use it to help best improve our business, and we work together as a team. Now, I understand you may not have other businesses out there that you can partner up with, but it's an example of how do you use that same information that's out there to improve your business, to find ideas and things that you can do. And it all starts from really starting to get into your numbers and looking at a profit and loss, looking at a balance sheet and saying, hey, I want to understand my numbers. There were times when I actually helped boost my business. When I go back to the ice cream shop, you know what? I wanted to figure out how I can improve the business. How could I get more sales? And one of the areas that I really dove into were cakes. And I started diving in going, hey, when do cakes sell? Everybody knows, maybe you don't know, I didn't know this at the time, that September is the #1 month for birthday cakes. And I started looking at our September, and then I noticed, hey, guess what? A lot of people in August, September, and October. September may be #1, but there's this whole 3-month window that you can really drive these sales. And I dove into it and I kept diving into it. And I started discovering things about other months. And I started discovering that, hey, I had to have it to be able to sell it. If I didn't make it, it wasn't going to sell. And if I limited myself to only so many of something, guess what? That's all that I could sell. Some of you that I've coached, we've had this very conversation about your business where you want to grow, but you never are in stock of your best sellers and you're constantly running out, which is holding your sales down. I had one gentleman, for example, we really dove into his top 25 items, and it was amazing. This year, he's having record numbers over the previous year just because he looked at what those top 25 were. He's made sure that he's never out of stock on them, and he's making sure that that's where his over inventory is in, are in things that he sells, not in things that he doesn't sell. And it all starts, once again, from diving into the numbers and seeing what's going on. And there's so many different aspects of each and every one of your businesses that I think if you really put your mind and your thought into it and understanding what those numbers are and what they actually mean, and then how can you use those numbers to your advantage to grow your business, whether it's growing your sales, improving your inventory numbers to make sure that your expenses aren't out of whack, to make sure that you're not, your payroll's not out of control. I think I talked about this last week or the week before, where somebody really thought they were losing all their money and it turned out, no, their sales were just going down and their payroll was ballooning. It was getting huge, and it was taking up all of the money. And if you would have just looked into his numbers, he would have seen that. If he was just looking at them on a regular basis, he could have caught it before he lost $70,000. But instead, he let it go on for a year, and $70,000 later, he's like, oh my God, that's where my money's been going. And it's business after business after business. When I sit down and go through these things, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the juicy stuff. I'm looking for those opportunities for sales and profit. Matter of fact, once I started doing the bookkeeping side of it, I can't help myself. When I'm getting somebody's books caught up and I get them all cleaned up and I start noticing trends, the first email from me with their P&L is like, hey, by the way, this is what I found. This is what I'm discovering as I'm going through this. And, by the way, you might want to keep an eye on this. And I'm finding that now that people are getting good profit and losses from having good bookkeeping, guess what? They're able to use the numbers and make a difference and an impact in their business at the same time. But it really comes down to you. I can preach it all day long. I can make sure that somebody's got good books. But at the end of the day, if you're not using the numbers and you're not trying to make sense out of what it's telling you, you're going to continue to struggle. And, I was thinking the other day, 35 years of looking at profit and loss. It's probably been longer, but at least 35. I'm really dating myself here. It's just a matter of how do you take the information your business has? When you chose to be a business owner, it was more than just doing what it is that you do. It is more than you just helping the people that you want to help. Whether you love animals and you want to help them with their dog grooming or whatever the case may be, or maybe you're an electrician by trade and you just love being an electrician, or maybe you just love making beautiful yards. Maybe you just love helping people with any service business behind the scenes. It's great that you love that. But the minute you signed up to be a business owner, you signed up to make sure that you're using your business numbers to help you grow your business, that you're going to use your business numbers to make sure that you are diving in and you're looking for those opportunities, whether it's sales related, whether it's expense related, whether it's profit related. You've got to use this. And I know I'm preaching to the choir and I know I'm saying this over and over, but I just want you to know it's possible. I was a noob at one time too. I didn't know what those things were. As much as I know about them today, I can't tell you. I'm talking like for a year. I felt so stupid looking at that piece of paper because I just could not make that connection inside of my head as to what something was. But I plugged away and I kept asking and I kept learning and I kept going, when I do this, this happens. And over the course of a year, I got really good at understanding how to impact that profit and loss statement. And you can do the exact same thing. You just have to get started and you have to start diving in. And you are going to feel like a complete ding dong when you start doing it. No different than when you first started doing whatever field you're in. I'm pretty sure the very first time that you picked up shears or clippers or whatever to start doing a dog, you didn't really know what you were doing, right? And same thing, the first time that you went out there and you started doing whatever it is that you sell, you didn't know what you were doing. There was this time in this period of where you were trying to figure out how to do it. And you gave yourself grace then because you were excited and you wanted to learn how to do it. Hey, I'm telling you the same thing with your numbers. If you really want to understand them, you're going to understand them. So please, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to stop talking about this, but I just wanted you to know a little bit about my journey and how I came over time to really love and appreciate these things, and then being able to see so many different businesses and the impact and how things change. It really is amazing. You just have to get started. And that's what I want to challenge each and every one of you guys is I want you to get out there, grab that P&L. And if you're behind a year, 2, 3, 4 years behind, give me a call. We'll figure it out. I can help you. If you need those bookkeeping systems, services to be able to get yourself back on track, at least for the last year and get this year caught up, or maybe even last year, depending upon your situation. But the main thing you've got to do is you need clean numbers to give you a clean profit and loss, and then take that profit and loss and grow your business, grow your sales, grow your profits, and just start making money. I mean, just the other day we were doing one and we put all their income, instead of it going into one bucket, we put it into 3 or 4 different buckets. So that way they can really watch those buckets grow and change and see what happens over time and see what part of their business is in each one. There's so many cool things you can do with the P&L. And I just want you to be able to do the same thing. I'm rattling again. I'm telling you, I can talk about this for hours. I just want you guys to be profitable. I want you to make money. You bust your butt. You work so hard. I think you deserve it. Don't you think you deserve it? But I'm telling you, the best tool you have is your profit and loss. You just got to start looking at it. You just got to start reading it and start using the information to help you grow your business. That's why I put the course together to help you out. And that's why I keep it so cheap so that you can just go look at it, learn your business numbers. That's what it all comes down to. All right, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to get out of here, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now.